our city manager here, telling us that we'd be built out in 11 years. Just think about that. We're not even close to being built out. 11 years we're looking at being built out. So you look at all those people. Then we had Scott Dunlop from Seven Islands, the land developer. He shared his vision, talking about the waterway, the balance of nature, the marine life, and all those things, and how important it is to maintain that balance. But no one has asked you, what is your vision? So that's why we're here tonight. We have an outline. We have our streets that are going to be pretty much collapsed, opened up, ripped out. North 3 utility is coming. We're going to talk about Old Burnt Star Road. We're going to talk about median beautification. And then the painful part, how do we pay for it? Okay. Questions? This is an interactive meeting. I really encourage people to talk. This is your meeting. But as we go through this, I think it becomes much more clear. So let me go to the next slide. So NWNA will present revitalization concepts and strategy to reimagine our neighborhoods during the construction and utility work. So we're going to provide you some information, and I think we are the most trusted source for information about the Northwest. We really do a good job fact checking, and we don't just put out stuff. But we are going to follow up with a survey to all of you. Anyone know who that is? Couple great quotes here. Sometimes you just have to give yourself what you wish someone else would give to you. Are people waiting on city officials? Are people waiting on family member? I think it's time for us to really identify what we want and offer it up there as far as how can we help ourselves. And the other thing too is words may inspire, but only action creates change. So if you don't know what a wasn't is, I'm going to tell you. So if you've never been born, then what would you be? You might be a fish or a toad in a tree. You might be a doorknob or 3 baked potatoes. You might be a bag full of hard green tomatoes. But worse than all that, you might be a wasn't. A wasn't just isn't present. But you were you. Now isn't that pleasant? So let's not be a wasn't. Take the survey, tell us what you want, and good things will happen. So there's a design plan contractor that's putting together the master plan that they can hand over to the contractor to build our streets, right? This is how it goes. So what we've been asked to do is to kind of give our vision, our wants, our needs of you, the majority living in the neighborhoods of the Northwest Cape. So this is what our goal is. We're going to put together a strategic plan, and we're going to talk about the North 3 UEP. Now, everyone familiar with this territory? It goes up through Kismet, and I had a lot of questions on this because I think there's a north border where some people are saying to me, Jerry, I think I'm north of Kismet because this way I can die in peace and I never have to go to the hookups because you're going to do it like 50 years from now. So I sympathize with those people and I think they're very happy. But if you look at the numbers here, there's 1,900. Now this is probably a year or two old, but you're looking at 1,900 improved parcels with homes, 32 unimproved, 5,100 parcels. So we have the numbers. This is a $300 million project. We got preliminary numbers of each one of us here are going to pay about $35,000 to hook up. If you do the math, that's $178 million. So about half of the cost. But if you look at that number, we're financing it, right? So look at, many of you have heard me talk about the billions of investment. If you look at Seven Islands, $1 billion of investment, right? If you look at what's coming on Cape Coral Grove, $1 billion investment. If you take 5,100 parcels here, and you just add in, those of you in the real estate business, if you put a valuation of $500,000, $2.5 billion is what we represent. We are the biggest stakeholders here, larger than the others building here. So I just wanted to make that point. Don't lose sight of who we are together, because that is a lot of valuation money. So just keep your eyes on that one. But so let's go. So first survey question: Old Burnt Store Road roundabouts. Now the county, Lee County, MPO. It's funny. I got a hold of this list a couple of months ago, and it lists a lot of the intersections of Tropicana, Yucatan, Gulfstream, Kismet, the intersection of those, I'm sorry about that, those parkways intersecting with Old Burnt Store Road, and they're on the list. So it made me think, I said, you know, one of the things we're looking at, and one of the things we've been asked to look at is, how do you feel about roundabouts? I know Susan's from New Jersey, so am I. And in New Jersey, it don't work too well. People go too fast, okay? It's a little scary to roundabout in New Jersey. So, but think about installation of roundabouts on Old Burnt Store Road, where Tropicana, Yucatan, Gulfstream, and Kismet intersect that. What would it do to traffic? So, a couple things that we did that I want to share with you. We had a real estate focus group. We wanted to see what impact these kinds of things would make on property, valuation, and all those things. So I want to share some of the recommendations and some of the comments that came out of these meetings. But maintaining traffic connectivity. There's two people on our board that are both not here that live on Old Burnt Store Road. And one of them got run off the road because he failed to put a turn signal on. Someone passed him in the median on the dirt. But the traffic is not bad, but the speed is. So the speed on Old Burnt Store Road, unless you have a bridge coming, you have, just wide open. So what a lot of residents are looking at is traffic calming measures to promote safety for pedestrians and bikers. So I'm going to open this up in a second. So real estate professionals, reasons and things discussed. Safety. This will slow speed. Some felt it was better than four-way stops. The city would maintain it. Irrigation would be needed. Works well with land values. Welcomes people to the area. It's kind of a welcoming planter. I don't know. So then our group gets together, Ralph, Kathy, myself, Sam, and it's definitely a method to slow down traffic. Put them in targeted areas. Maybe we do not want these on every single parkway. I don't know. It would be a great entryway into Seven Islands. So this is on the survey question. Is there any comments on roundabouts? How do you feel? Yes.
Why did they not do it on Embers?
I don't know why that was not done on Embers. I could tell you one of the reasons why we're here today is we saw in the budget that they're going back to Embers to do the median beautification. 4 years later, 5 years later, what's it costing today, right? When it could have been done then. It's money, right? COVID, all those things, but yes.
I guess I'm for it, but what happens to the people who lives on those corners, on those intersections? What happens to their property? Because those things take up some space. So what happens to the houses that are already there where those intersections are?
Yeah, so what this will encompass is, you know, I made the comment about New Jersey. Some of these New Jersey roundabouts, huge, right? So to fit the neighborhood, to fit the street width is 60 feet, right? So it will fit within the street. You see it in a lot of golf course communities, a lot of the big Taylor Morrison and all the other communities. So it's shrunk down to fit, yes.
Just that, the signs, even if it's shrunk down right now, we live on Old Burn Store between Yucatan and Gulfstream. We have lots of heavy duty equipment, trailers with, you know, for the bills.
Contractors?
Exactly, I wanna make sure, in the last town we lived, they didn't make it big enough for the trucks going through. And, it became, they actually had to expand it after the project was done. I just wanna say there's a lot of
Great point.
trailer beds and semis that are coming through during this construction period.
So, you know, we'll get to everyone, it's a working session. So we're not here to sell, I'm not here to sell roundabouts. What I'm all about is telling you the possibilities, and what we're interested in hearing is, what do you want? So I'm not here to influence you either way. It's kind of a good meeting for me because I like that kind of thing, but you know, Kevin Blank would be tough because he's a salesperson, you know, he'd be up here, I reckon. But anyway, yes, sir.
Chuck Waterman. My question or my concern, I guess, is anytime you're gonna look at what's the risk of changing things, you kinda have to go, and when you're talking about drivers, you have to go to the lowest common denominator, unfortunately, which for here, sad to say, no offense to them, but snowbirds. How many people, we can talk about how much we are used to rotaries, and I grew up in New Hampshire, I'm very comfortable with them. There are a lot of people that come in a transitory capacity who may not have that familiarity. So what is that going to do to not only the traffic patterns, but potential traffic safety? Meaning, are we gonna have more accidents from people who don't know how to use a rotary?
So introducing something new, right, that was not here before, especially at night, right?
Yeah.
So it's a good point. Yes?
So every weekend, we live off of Chuck Kennedy, Mercer Road. It becomes a donut making place, right? So now you're gonna give them a donut. Make donuts.
I mean, maybe that's why you do this. I mean, you know, but I know that if you go on Tropicana on your way home, you'll see one of those. So, yes, sir.
Jerry, just a question, you made a comment earlier that, you know, the issue with Old Burn Store Road isn't tractor volume, but speed. Just curious if there's any traffic studies been done as part of the Seven Islands projects? I mean, what is that project going to do to the volume of traffic on the road in addition to the, you know, continued build out? And is a roundabout something that would be sufficient if the amount of traffic increases, or is other type of controls maybe necessary with the amount of traffic that's coming?
Absolutely. I think if you introduce something like this, a traffic study and all those things, it's funny, my wife Michelle and I had this conversation when you go down to Tarpon Point, right? So you go down to Weston and you go hang out on the waterfront there. I don't, pick a day, pick a time, pick anywhere. Any calendar day, month. Are you ever in traffic? I've never been in traffic going to Tarpon Point. Look at all the people that live there, all those units. So it's interesting, right? It's interesting. So, yeah, so anything that, you know, when the survey is complete, and let's say it's overwhelming either way, but if it is pro, what's the first thing that has to be done? Let's do a feasibility, right? So, but the important thing, and I think it's very good points. I can't sit here and tell you all I have all the answers. I don't. I mean, all I'm doing is bringing the possibilities, and I think you have to get there. Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm really excited that you're doing something about the roads and the speeders. I live on Old Birchesville Road on Horseshoe Canal. My concern is double. We have the speeders on the street and coming down the canal. I mean, they go so fast, the bridge, all on there, that the water's going over the seawalls. I mean, is there anything we can do about boat traffic? I know a lot of people come down here and they don't realize that we have no way in all the canals.
There are things, you're going to see another possibility on these slides that we're gonna
I'm
really.
sorry, I didn't mean to steal you.
No, no, no. There is another way, and I'll just tell you, what if the bridge is not there?
Then they'll go faster.
Maybe build a ramp, right? You know, so, yes, sir.
Will they be four-laning north to Kismet?
I'm sorry, say that again, sir?
Will they be widening the road up to Kismet, four-laning it?
Not that I'm aware of.
It will stay two-lane.
You know what, again, I don't know what the future plans are about, you know, going to double up there. I don't know. I don't know yet. I don't know yet.
I think, I was gonna ask the same question about widening it, because the moment you widen those, when you have a roundabout that has multiple lanes, that's where it gets really confusing.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, because I think, Kevin's a great point, because if this is put into Old Burn Store Road, how do you widen that? What do you do, another roundabout, around that roundabout? I don't know. But traffic calming measures, there's a rise in roundabouts. Yes, sir?
It seems that there's not that many ways to control traffic. You can use a traffic control device, which is expensive. I'm not hearing you want to put lights in there. You can use stop signs, which exist, or you do the roundabout. So four-way stops, people sit there and wonder, are you next, am I next, who's next? And that's almost slower than a roundabout. And yet at the same time, it does slow things down. If you go to like Clearwater Beach, to me, that roundabout's a disaster trying to get on and off. But
Yes.
it's a bottleneck there.
So, see how this ties into, as we progress over the next few slides, see how the roundabout fits with a bridge or a streetscape. And kind of, you know, we're doing this in steps so you can kind of get a feel. Yes.
Can't remember the name of the street, but on the backside of Punta Gorda, they have them.
They have like four in a row.
Yeah, four in a row. and they-
Edgewater.
They work, Edgewater, that's right. They work great.
In Punta Gorda?
Yeah.
Yeah, Edgewater,
A
yeah.
lot too.
Yeah.
There's speed bumps, there's some speed bumps on much better.
Yes, ma'am.
And it seems like the ones they put downtown, you know, on 47th or wherever, those seem to work okay. I mean, they were a pain when they first put them in, but.
I tell you, for me, coming here with a four-way stop sign, I mean, I come from Jersey, I'm first, you know what I mean? I was a little weird getting used to that, but I got it now. But, you know, the unfortunate thing is, there's a learning curve with this, so,
We're from New Hampshire too, so
Yes.
we're good.
yes.
I recently lived in an area where there were quite a few of the small ones, not the big ones, but the small, simple ones. And they're actually really nice, and they, beautification-wise, really make a difference. Like, people who are new to the area, they're like, ooh, they like them, so. And it does slow people down, and the folks who just like to floor it, they're gonna go out and burn start, so they're not gonna wanna deal with us, which will help keep keep the speeds down. And I've watched snowbirds arrive into an area that had a new roundabout, and this thing was the funkiest thing I've ever seen. It's literally shaped like a dog bone. It's a long story, I mean, like, it literally. And you come up and you're like, and we thought, oh God, there's gonna be so many accidents when the seasonals get here this year, and there wasn't. So, I don't know, I've had a really good experience with the small roundabouts in large communities, and it's
Okay.
worked well.
Well, thank you. I know we have more questions. I'm gonna rapid fire. Is it Don?
Just a couple things. First, I don't believe you can build that without taking property from the four houses on the corner. I don't believe you can put it in a 60-foot right away. So there's a time frame, there's a lot of time and effort to put in something like that. I have no problem with the roundabouts, I think they make sense. But one of my concerns is too, that Dan mentioned the traffic study for Seven Islands. Well, in my opinion, you're gonna create a ton of traffic going to Seven Islands. And a couple of those roundabouts, or something like that, should be on the shoulders of the developer of Seven Islands, which probably will be at some point. So some of this might go.
Very
away.
well may be, yes.
And I guess what my biggest concern is, doing something like this is gonna take a tremendous amount of time. Design, like I said, you're gonna have to take property, you gotta take easements from people. I don't wanna see the utility project delayed because of this.
That's a great point.
This is not something that's gonna happen overnight. It's a long-term thing that the city has to buy in on. And like I said, I'm all for it, but I could see this delaying the utility project 2 years, just to get this all designed and in place.
I do have a suggestion, where we're from originally, we use speed bumps, and that might be a cheap alternative until they can do that.
At the four ways.
Okay, speed bumps, yes.
So to tag on to what you just mentioned, and the Seven Islands aspect, the one name that's up there that I'm looking at is, what about the idea of using Tropicana as a pilot for this, because you've got some currently unused land at that intersection?
You're absolutely right. I mean, I think that would be the move, because Tropicana is going to be the first to be worked on. And if you look at West Cape Estates, you have some room there, that park property. But this came from the county though, from why it's inserted here. The county's looking at this, so just so you're aware. But let's see how it ties in. Let's see how it ties in everything else. I don't mean to cut you off. You know, the library's gonna close, everyone has to get out of here at 8, but, you know, we'll be in the parking lot a while, so. Bridges. Now, can you imagine if this is what our bridge looked like? The bridges on Old Burnt Store Road? Right, so, I mean, I'm an optimistic person, I like to reach, this is awesome, you know, look at that boat. So, couple things that the survey will have. Rebuild and raise the bridge. Probably need a little bit more land to do that too, right? Right, Don? But you know, and looking at these slides and looking at these projects, I really realize if you live by a bridge right now, are you paying flood insurance? Because you're pretty high, right? Think about it. You're on that slope. But anyway, that's just me. So, rebuild and raise the bridges is a survey question. So replace the 5 vehicle bridges. Why this came up is because these bridges were built, what, 60s, 70s? They're coming up in the cycle for work. You know, what do we want to do to these bridges when the time comes? If you look at Seven Islands, a 7-year deal, 7-year project, maybe more. You look at the work for the UEP here, it may take 4 or 5 years. But as those projects start to chug forward, those bridges are getting older. So if everything is going to get done, you know, within a decade, now where are these bridges as far as maintenance and everything else? And I think that's the question. This came out of a couple studies. It actually came out of the vision plan for Seven Islands. It was mentioned in it then. So if you don't know, I didn't know the name of these bridges either. I just know where they were at. So Alligator Slough, Horseshoe, Hermosa, Bonefish, Rosemary Lake, Cetus, Embers, Tropicana, Yucatan, Gulfstream. Okay? If these bridges were to be raised to only handle pedestrian walkway, bikes, I put golf cart because the city manager reminded me that there's, you know, a low speed vehicle. Whatever we call those things, can that also fit on there to create a little connectivity without using the car? So one of the survey questions would be, what would that do to your life? What would that look like? Would it improve your life? It definitely eliminates through traffic and creates an enclave. That word enclave has value in the real estate market. I will tell you that the Realtors Focus Group came up with that name. I love it. It's a very, very popular name. It's also, if you go to the southeast Cape, you'll see them. They are truly forming enclave neighborhoods where they're cut off. You live in this neighborhood, there's only one way to get in. And guess what? If you're a roofer and your roofing job is 2 blocks over, guess what? You're not coming through. So these are things that came out of our meetings. Height clearance is critical. Just about every survey that I've ever seen about the Northwest Cape, boats, spreaders, exits, this is a hot topic for people here. Height, so height does a few things, right? If your boat has an 8.5 foot T-top on it and your bridge is 9 feet, you're a little worried on high tide. You're a little worried. You know, I've been standing up on mine. Takes care of that worry, but also allows for bigger boats to come in, larger boats to come in. What does that do to the valuation of homes? Removes high tide impact that we talked about and increased property value. So these are some of the things, but I also want to read from our real estate focus group and from our group here. Remove vehicle bridges and replace them with bridges that allow golf cart, bikes, and pedestrians, which is recited here. The target area is Old Burn Store Road, of course. Would create what we call a unique neighborhood. Could have welcome signs added, example, welcome to Tropicana neighborhood or park. One identified an issue that there are pipes right now, there's utilities that are exposed, they're different colors. So, you know, some of the engineers here, you know, how do we deal with that? You know, how do we deal with the utilities, right? With higher bridges, we might need to purchase some already owned property to get the room, right? Dredging and widening of selected canals. I can tell you that bonefish in low tide is 4 feet right under the bridge. So you're gonna get a large, you know, 40 foot, 10.5, 11 foot beam boat through there. You know, that's gotta be dredged. The issue is money. Maybe select only certain canals for this, okay? So that's what we're also hearing is, and the other thing that came out, which kind of a fact check that we found out, Kathy and I were trying to figure out, we know there's 400 linear miles of canals here, more in the world than anywhere else, and by far. So it stands to reason that, what was the percentage of saltwater canals? So it was 100 miles out of the 400 miles are saltwater canals, which means that we have ocean access, more ocean access than anywhere else in the world. In other words, in Cape Coral, if you buy a Gulf access lot with salt water, you're one of the people that has access to get to the Gulf of Mexico, right? But what I'm getting at is that there's only 100 miles of that here out of the 400. But and you've heard me say this at these other meetings, Amsterdam and Venice and everywhere else, there's nowhere else in the world where you can access an ocean from your house than here. That's not something we're really marketing, you know, and that's something we probably should. If we want the valuations of our houses to go up. But that came out of our meeting. And then I'll go to questions. A couple other things. It was a couple funny stuff here. I don't want to repeat. This is kind of my notes. But okay, here's one. Here's one right here. Here's a good one. If you remove all the bridges, would you really need roundabouts? Right? Good question. So this was number one. This is Bridges Reimagined. This is replacing 5 bridges with a pedestrian walkway. Let me go back to that slide. So what do you think? So that's a pedestrian bridge, it's non-vehicle. And then we go to option 2, right? Remove all bridges. Same ones, elimination of entire through traffic, creates the enclave, large boat access to the spreader, no bridge, sailboat water, still got a dredge under the old bridges. increase property values and tax base. This, removing the bridges, probably eliminates a lot of work to create this pedestrian connection. So let's open it up there. Lot to talk about, right? Yes, ma'am.
Question, what would be the downside of that? I don't understand why we're spending so much time talking about roundabouts.
I can't give you my opinion on that. I'm asking you. I
I'll
mean,
give you mine. I don't think we should be talking about roundabouts. I think they should remove the bridges. That solves the problem.
okay.
We've gotten a lot of money. I mean, I know taking the bridges down is costly, but.
It was in the vision plan for the Northwest Cape 7 Islands, where the D1 came out of. Removal of bridges is on there. Yes, sir.
We're only about a third developed in the northwest now. When we're fully developed, there's gonna be an awful lot of traffic. You take those bridges out, you're gonna force everything towards Burnside. And that's gonna be a terrible situation.
Yeah, I think you're probably looking at what's going on near the airport. What's that road we all travel to the airport in Fort Myers?
Tree line.
Yeah, good point.
So if you're considering opening up the bridge and making it wider, so that a golf cart would have access to it, does that mean the city's gonna allow golf carts on public road?
I don't know.
They're already doing it.
I can't hear you.
I know there's a lot, if you go through your neighborhoods right now, there's people with golf carts in the street. I mean, so will there be golf cart use in Northwest Cape, is what you're asking? Will that ordinance be put in, or?
My question is it gonna be legalized? Because now you're not talking about
To be continued,
not
so.
widening the road, and now you're gonna share the road with the dump truck going up to Diplomat and a golf cart.
Yeah, I understand. So the question about the golf cart, I gotta give you something I'm 100% on, so I don't have the answer right now. I'm not gonna tell you yes, so I don't have.
We shouldn't plan on building a bridge wide enough for a golf cart.
That last slide, I've had to double asterisk. I did a double asterisk because I'm doubly uncertain about that. Okay? So the Cincinnati Red fan back there.
Yes. During Ian, we had, storm surge come up to the base of our swimming pool. Now, I looked on the map, we're about 2.5 miles from the Shelleys, and that's a very narrow channel. All the water that came up to my house had to come through that one channel, and up a bit wider part of the spreader, but then forced through a, 30 feet wide bridge opening, this thing's maybe 25 feet. I think that might have slowed it down a lot. If we took out all those bridges.
That's an interesting point.
There might be opening up that.
When you take your survey, can you write that down? Seriously. I'm not taking notes. I mean, we're recording it. I'll go back, but it's a good point. It really is. Yes, ma'am?
Would it eliminate the bridges, mean we don't have an alternate route beside Bird's Door? They're gonna build all these houses and apartments on Bird's Door, it's just gonna get busier and busier. So eliminating access to create an enclave neighborhood, you're trapping us to one outlet that's gonna be overwhelmed. I think it's a bad move.
Understand. Yes, sir?
I think there's laws against not having one access or heavily populated areas too.
One of the first meetings I had with the mayors, it was emergency response. That's why they built the new fire station over here on Burnt Store. And it was evacuation, and it was all those things. And, this gentleman here, I knocked on his door. Doug Kidd, architect. So Douglas Kidd, he imagined this thing. He put together this amazing publication in 2010. And then the vision plan for 7 Islands came out 6 years later. But he talks about that, hey, before you think about removing a bridge or adding, height to a bridge, emergency response, all those things. So yeah, that all has to be done. That is all part of it. Yes?
This is a question.
everything that we're talking about now, is this in addition to what we've already done in the past with the other surveys and what we've given our input on?
Yeah, this
Or are we
is a
starting
brand
over
new,
again?
it's a brand new
We're
survey.
starting over.
Starting over.
Okay.
It's funny because Susan, it's funny that Northwest Cape was surveyed in 2016. I have some of the results I'm gonna read to you at the end. And,
We've
it's,
done this like 2-3 times already since I've been here, so I'm just wondering if we're starting over again, or we're just trying to get,
Yeah.
because we've grown so much.
the reason why we're doing this is because the streets are gonna be ripped up.
Okay.
And it will be a methodical, slow march, so we could conceivably get money to do, you know, Tropicana year one, you know, and keep going to each parkway year after year after year, and not budget everything in one shot. And I think that's why we're looking at all this thing. Because when it's done, I think it's done. So the time to do it is now. And what's it gonna cost 10 years from now to do it, right?
So the elevation of the bridges, it's just to allow for larger boats in the area between Burn Store and Old Burn Store going through?
It's more toward eliminating vehicle traffic.
Okay.
Keeping the connectivity of the neighborhood, but eliminating the vehicle traffic.
But I was talking about if they were raising bridges.
So raising the bridge would not include vehicles,
Right. Okay.
and it would, and we still, the gentleman back here about, you know, the golf cart. Can we do that? I don't know. Do bikes and pedestrians. Anybody else? Kevin?
I'm new to this area,
You are.
and very,
Where are you from?
from Colorado. But the thing I've noticed in my time here is that I love the idea of having a higher bridge access. I want a bigger boat, right? But when we go up and down Old Burn Store Road, there's always people walking, and I think that needs to be somewhat preserved. I want to be able to go down to the park, down the street, or Joe's Donuts, you know, I think that's the name of the park. It'd be nice to be able to have that access. So I like the idea of the bridges taller, but I would like to be able to walk across them as opposed to being completely cut off. You know, there's a lot of activities there, things to do.
I agree.
Yeah, you know, on the survey, it'll be pick one. Remove, extend, or just leave it alone. So, all right, so at the end, we can always come back, but let's get through. We talked about removal, and this is kind of, but I was talking about Doug Kidd. Here's an architect who talked about, you know, if you look at where does our ratables come from? It's the residential sector, you know, and there's a new word I read in the Wall Street Journal. It's called resi-mercial. We want to have a resi-mercial zone, and we're not hoping that Amazon opens up a distribution center here with 2,000 jobs. We're not praying on and hoping that, you know, I don't know, some of the big box center stores open up distribution for jobs and everything. What's happening is companies don't want to build office space, and what they're doing now is they're putting a team of remote workers in the neighborhood, and then what they're doing is they're buying this house and they're building an office. It looks like a home. No one would know, but that's where they have their teams meeting. And it's an interesting thing that's going on because everybody wants to work remote. Everyone wants to live in a vacation spot. This is a trend that's happening right before us. So, hey, you know what? Maybe the world's first resi-mercial zone is here. And maybe we tax those businesses, but we'll see. But anyway, this is what it looks like to cut off bridges. It clearly defines a neighborhood, and there's no connection with a vehicle, whether you lift them or remove them. This clearly defines a neighborhood and an enclave. So it's interesting. It's just an interesting dynamic to the whole thing. I think that's enough on that. So here's the big one. I got to check my time. We're great on time. Amazing. So medians and streetscapes. Don't you just love that one? Arnold Roberts, I'll plug them because they invested, what was it, $25,000 to build that median over by Joe Stone's, right? Now, I don't know what that costs now, but, you know, they put it in, and I immediately, like, took ownership of that. It made my day when I saw that done. And it was just one little median, right? So I don't know how you felt about that, but to me, it was a big deal. And it really, you know, it gave us hope, right? So Old Bird Store Road at Tropicana, north of Gulfstream, but that should be, that's a typo, and that's my typo, but it should be go all the way to Kismet. So all the way in the zone to Kismet. And then also Tropicana, Yucatan, Gulfstream, Kismet, parkways, right? We're looking at this. This is what has been done by the city, and we want to introduce another concept, which kind of looks like this. So, if you go back to that, right now, oh, that's right, I have my pointer. Right now, your bike is right here, and Johnny's walking right here, okay? Your neighbor Johnny's walking here, your bike is here, and your traffic is here. We just had a fatality of a bicycle a couple months ago, right on Old Bird Store. So, you know, this is beautiful and everything else, but you still have pedestrians and bicycles in traffic, in the lane, and we've already kind of established that people are driving a little too fast here anyway, right? So, this is a concept where you have the pedestrian walkway and the bike path in the center, expanding, taking away the bike. This would be the front lawn of someone's home. You'd have driveways here. But this widens the space. This also widens the median and creates a pedestrian walkway in the bike lanes in the center landscape median. So this removes bikers and pedestrians out of the directional vehicle traffic lanes. There's a separation now as a buffer, right? It provides shade for walkers and bikers. And it's funny, you know, I got to give him credit. Dan Shepard showed this to me. I just had to figure out how to illustrate it because I'm not a cartoonist, right? So I did a little bit of work with this. But is there possible grant fund? Is this a park? Is it a park? Is it a pocket park? You know, it could be considered that. Yes.
Just a question. I love the looks of this visually. My concern is that as you expand that median, you're now narrowing the road slightly. Interject into the picture landscape trucks with trailers that park along the side of the road. If the road isn't wide enough for normal traffic to be able to move around that, I just see that as a burden.
Yeah, so this concept does not change the width of the roadway at all. Matter of fact, it leaves if you look at, when you go home, you look at one of the parkways, there's a real thin line that, I guess, is that the pedestrian?
Yes.
I guess the sidewalk, right? It leaves that, and it leaves the full width of the roadway. So just so you know, this would be the concept. That's a good question.
On Veterans, they built a sidewalk, and I see people walking and bicycles.
On Veterans.
On Veterans,
Yes.
right, so like, why couldn't that be like that on
Yeah,
one side?
yeah, why not, you know, why not just move this whole thing to one side? It could be done.
Right,
This is great.
it's already the right of way.
Could you draw
It's a
that?
city, yeah, oh, sure.
It's email. But I think that's a great point, you know, that's a great point. You know, we're human, we're in a room saying, yeah, this looks good, right? So, but yeah, I mean, that's also a possibility. Could we double up the traffic on one side and have separation that way? I guess the question is, do you like moving the pedestrian and bike lanes out of the traffic?
Yes. I like this concept only because it also prevents all the trucks and all the trailers that park in the median overnight or during the day blocking, so this takes away all that too.
Yes, yes, sir.
Bike path that they put in off up north, you know, the one that was $12 million or something that follows the road.
Oh, yeah.
You know, when you ride on it, you're crossing driveways, people got their cars parked in it, they can't do it here. If you put the bike lane in the middle.
Right.
Because there's stop signs all along the bike path there, it's about as much fun to ride as it's not.
You get hot when you walk in the summer? Yeah, I mean, this is nice, right? canopy and all that good stuff. Questions?
But on Veterans, they have that too, canopy.
Yeah, I love it. I love what you came up with. It's great. Yes, ma'am.
I see that you're talking about this from Tropicana North, you're not talking about it from Embers North.
Tropicana, because Tropicana is in the UEP zone. Did you ask about Embers?
Yeah.
Embers, there is plans to go back. So Embers, I can tell you, they're in the planning stages to complete Embers with the median this way.
And how about from Embers on Old Grove Store up to Tropicana, are we talking about doing anything there? Or are we
Yes,
talking
so-
about Tropicana North?
So this is Old Burnt Store Road, and then all parkways. So Old Burnt Store Road. Now, you have Seven Islands development, right, going on. So that's south of Tropicana. But from Tropicana north, you know, they also have the dirt medians, the grass medians, going up Old Burnt Store Road. So this would be proposed on Old Burnt Store Road going north, and then each parkway connecting Burnt Store and Old Burnt Store Road. Yes, sir.
Would that ensure the bike lane, would that include north and south bike traffic? Would it be two separate lanes of people traveling riding north and people riding south?
Sure. It's a great question. I know, you know what it is about concept, we haven't really drilled down. I'm really bad at that. I like to stay in the clouds, you know? But yeah, sure, why not, right?
A lot of this ends like the roundabout, if we were to go down that road at Kismet. And then from north of there, we have Park going in, Crystal Lake.
Right.
Is there a way to continue, say, the bike lane or the walking, I mean, because that whole side, that east side of Old Bird Store is just all median.
Yeah,
And
see-
I know we have easement, so,
Yeah.
I mean, what happens north of Kismet?
It's funny, I drove my bike up there all the way to, you know, from Tropicana I drove it, and there's, of course, you run out of bike lanes.
Right.
And, you know, luckily, it's kind of like a mountain bike. So I was, you know, when people are coming, you just go in the dirt, so.
That would be a suggestion I would have, is to continue at least the bike lane or the walking lane, not that if it was this extent, there's only 2 lanes. I don't see them expanding the 2 lanes north of Kismet.
I don't either. I don't either.
I'm
You know,
just
it's
trying to
funny.
figure out how we get the other part of that up there.
Our real estate group came up with this. They said, Jerry, there's no medians. There's no medians on Kismet. I'm like, oh, okay. So, requires design. So, this takes it up to Kismet. North of Kismet, there are no, there's just roadway. There's
It's gonna
nothing.
get past the lake.
Yeah, it's a problem. It's a problem. So, anyway, this is the concept. I do like maybe the side concept. That's nice as well. But I think for the purpose of the surveys, do you like to isolate this type of activity and separate it from traffic?
Yes.
So, yes, ma'am.
I can't hear everyone, so I hope this isn't a repeat. This is only worth considering if we decide not to move bridges, because if that were to happen, it create neighborhoods, there would be no idea of
It would, so the question was, would this be moot if the bridges were removed?
the bridges are removed, we even have this to consider.
You do actually, because you're still leaving an enclave neighborhood intact. And
So within each neighborhood, we might do something like this
yes,
in each section.
yes, yes. Yes, ma'am.
Is the neighborhood gonna be paying for this, or is everybody, the city's gonna?
You know, there's a slide on who's paying for this coming up. Did you bring your checkbook? No. You know what, and it's no joke, right? It's really no joke. Spending enough on hooking up, right? Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, I apologize for coming late. Is this anticipated to be part of the UVP?
So the design plan right now is being worked on to hand to the contractors that are going to rip the streets, make the connections and do all this work. We're looking to integrate this vision into that plan. Because if it's in the design plan, then they can design it and they can build it when the streets are being redone.
Regardless of whatever the ultimate decision is on what is being done to the medians and the landscape.
Correct. Correct. All right, let me move forward. So, a couple of things that came out of streetscapes with our folks who sat down and brain trust of all these folks and coming together in a room. I ran into this problem. The kids right now sit on the edge of the medians and wait for the bus. They squat down. They're hard to see, right? So when you're coming out of your street and the bus is going to pick I'm sorry about this, Mike, but the bus is going to pick a son or daughter up at the corner. And that's a problem. It's a dangerous situation. Whereas if they were waiting in the median, it might be a real safe way to go. The city would have to do probably additional maintenance on these medians. They're bigger, right? If it is considered a park, there would be a better possibility that grants could be obtained, which is what we talked about. Yes, I think that would be it. So, be wise on your choice of plants, because we don't want, we don't want someone to be able to hide in here and ambush someone. So that came out of it as well. Just, the good, the bad, the ugly. So there it is. Those were some of the points that we came up with. So I'm going to move forward to assessment. So I have a feeling this is going to come up. I do. I have a feeling that this is going to come up. So taking the pulse on, we're faced with a $35,000 hit. I don't know what the final number is going to be, but are you willing to spend extra money to do this work? That's what is your tolerance to that? Some people absolutely no. What are you, crazy? You have some nerve coming up here with a microphone and asking that, right? But it's a question. It's just the pulse of our group. So, and what this looks like, if you want to invest $1,000, I could tell you it cost me $700 to put in a foxtail, right? $700 to put in a palm tree. But anyway, if you want to invest $1,000 over 10 years, it's $100 a year, right? I think it's $8 a month. Okay. What if your tolerance level is to do this? This is going to be on the survey, and it'll just be check a box. And of course, there's another one. I am not willing to spend any additional money. So it just gives us a pulse of how you feel. How important is this to you? Okay? Or find other ways, and that's why we're here. Tropicana Park right now, is this a sound financial decision? There's a lot of uproar and upheaval right now in the city on parks, right? JC Park, Yacht Club, all these things. But right now, when we got this site plan, and I'll show it to all of you, I actually have a comparison, one to the other. We're sitting in these meetings, John Smart and I, and all of a sudden they come out with the community island, okay? There's no condos, there's no apartments. It's a community island. It has a dog park, splash pad that was taken out of Tropicana Park, and a lot of amenities here, and then they added in a 3-acre lagoon beach, fresh water, and then you have a beach in the spreader, okay? So when I got a hold of this, I'm like, there's a total duplication of amenities from Tropicana Park that we're gonna build out that now appear on 6 and 7. There's no way anyone could have predicted this, right? No one knew. This 7-island project, by the way, is really 5.5 islands, because this is a community center, and we talked about the resi-mercial space. It'd be nice to have somewhere to go have a meeting, right? Especially our group. we're at libraries, we're at restaurants that are too small for us. And, it'd be nice to have this, but the point is that no one knew that Forest Development with Scott Dunlop was gonna come in and do this as a destination. So it's interesting now. So is there a need for city investment of funds to move forward the development of Tropicana Park? Tropicana Park, here's 7 islands. Here's Island 7, the community island. This is a retention basin. This is leased space, which is going to be carved out. This is a small parking lot, a pavilion, a small playground, and a beach. Okay? So this is what $4 million of investment's going to get. So what we started to look at here is, let's compare the amenities and the size of the project area and everything. So Tropicana Park is 270,000 square feet in size, right? Island 6, which is 3 acres of that, help me out here, the lagoon, yeah. So 3 acres of the lagoon, 130,000 square feet. Island 7 is 169,000 square feet. So the combination of the two, and let me go back, because this is also in the plan, there's a connection bridge to go from this island to this island. This would be a hotel. This is the lagoon. There's cabanas, there's food, and you can pay for the day to go here. I don't know if there'd be any charge for you to swim in the spreader, okay? I had to say that, but anyway. So if you look side by side comparison, amphitheater, the bridge we talked about, the food court, there's a food and truck court, by the way. There's picnic tables. I counted 32 in the plan. 32 picnic tables right along the waterfront on the spreader. Separate bar servicing the food truck area, multiple bathrooms, a kayak and canoe launch, meeting event space, rooftop viewing, dining, dog park, which my mother-in-law is very happy about. She's here. Kids splash pad, playground. So, the list goes on. And then, what I just showed you is there is the kayak launch, the fitness stations, which I don't see here, in all fairness. There is restrooms, but it's a big open green space, really. And it's worth looking at, because a $4 million price tag can pay for a lot of medium beautification. Let me finish my point, sir, and I'll go right to you. So this is the question that we had with our focus group with NWNA. We had our focus group questionnaire with the realtors, our sponsors, and everything else. So the point was to reinvest the estimated $4 million of Tropicana Park development costs in our streetscapes during reconstruction of roadways. I already have a number, and Don Atkin and Steve's here from the Southwest. How you doing, Steve? When you talk to Don, friends of Cape Coral, irrigation, curbing, landscaping, right now is about $1 million a mile. The funny thing is, it's almost exactly a mile from Old Burnstore Road to Burnstore Road. So if you do the math, there's the 4 parkways right there. You have money to do that. I don't know what these extended medians cost. They probably will cost more. But where do you get money to do this? So if you want to bring a problem up to City Council, it's nice to have a solution. Money's tough. I met with our county commissioner, and the federal government's been hard on the state. There's 2 people in power here that, read between the lines. It's been very hard for state to get federal funding on certain things. It's been very, very difficult. So money is an issue. So yeah, we want all these things, but how do you pay for them? Do you want to pay $5,000 each to get this done, or do we look at ways like this? This is a survey question. One of the questions is keep it the same. I want the park. Let's preserve. Let's preserve the park space. I get it. That's on there. So if you look at one other point that I brought up to some members was that Tropicana Park is within a 1.5 mile radius of Joe Stone's Serena Vista, Serena being really the water park, access park. You'll have it at Seven Islands, right? Joe Stone's pickleball. If Tropicana Park had a massive pickleball courts, it'd be a hard argument right now, really. But it's not in the plans, right? I don't know what it costs to do that. But anyway, if you look at, we already have these parks within 1.5 miles. And guess what? There's an undeveloped park off Tropicana Parkway behind Hideaway Storage. There's a parcel there that will be developed into a park. So how many parks do we need? It's a good question to ask yourself. So additional profits to be realized by the city for the sale of the park. Guess what? What is the parcel worth with $1 billion project next door, right? Gulf Gateway developers will build Island 7 in phase 1. I had 2 council members ask me that question when I met with them one-on-one. Great idea, but we're gonna have Tropicana Park probably in a year or 2. We gotta wait 7 years for Gulf Gateway to finish the project. Go to Gulf Gateway, what's phase 1 of your build out? Oh, phase 1 is a community island. Why would you do that? You can't make money. So it's interesting, right? So what came out of our real estate meetings, Gulf Gateway developers to develop and incorporate Tropicana Park, the land on Tropicana Park, into the Seven Islands project with approval of concept rendering, site plans, to guess what? Get more park, but let them do it for us. That was what came out of it. What can they do? What would they be willing to do without us spending $4 million to do it? So it's expand the waterfront public access. I know that would be done. And green space. So there's a possible solution. But anyway, the Cape Coral Vision Plan of 2016, governing document of Seven Islands development, the D1 was born out of here. A lot of the things I just showed you are in here. Okay, we're not brilliant people, believe me. I mean, we're very good at finding information that exists and really bringing it up again, but this document is just it's 213 pages. And then Douglas Kidd, who put together, I can't get this out to everyone because it's copyrighted. I went to his house, I said, can I give this out? They said, sure, I gave it to the mayor. I go, can you sign this? He said, no. So I can't produce this for everyone. But I want to just really thank this group here, and not only real estate professionals, but also in the building industry, you know, for coming together and really looking at everything together with us. And you know, you're going to get a survey, and this is what I'm going to tell you about a survey. If you have a family of 5, you're all legal adults, 5 people fill out the survey. Unless we drive numbers, it's really meaningless. We really, if we get back 100 surveys, yeah, nice idea and all this stuff, but if we really come together and really take it seriously and get everyone involved in your household, you may have 5 registered voters in your house. Get everyone together, put your name and address on it. It has to be real, because I don't think we've done surveys like that before where we actually had a name and address on it. So we'll send this out in a few days, but when we get the results, we're not going to leak it. We're not going to leak it. We're going to share it with you guys first, and there'll be a strategic plan because it'll clearly direct us on what and where we go. It'll clearly shape our neighborhoods. It'll clearly shape the Northwest. And I think the city is open to hearing this because they want to know what people think. It's just very difficult to come together like this and extract that information other than, you know, back and forth at a council meeting. Yes, sir.
Has the Army Corps of Engineers or the EPA done any environmental impact statement in regards to Seven Islands and Tropicana Park project?
So the Tropicana Park permit, one of the permits, was just issued in March, middle March. There's another permit they're waiting from the waterway, but the difficulty with a development of 7 islands, it really is, can you imagine, you know, we're in these meetings and then you have, you know, engineering in the waterways and you have all these entities, right, for the waters, and you're dealing with a preserve, right? You're dealing with a state park, a preserve, and all those things. You can imagine how difficult it is to get a project approved and done around this waterway. I mean, it's, you know, hats off. I mean, they've come far. I mean, I think what the lessons learned are what was done before, what was done on Tarpon Point. One of the biggest things out of those meetings with the developers was, you know, we can get credits if we can keep the mangroves, and then if we can somehow work that out to make it look a little bit like Tarpon Point, where we build the walkway past the mangroves and keep the mangroves. So yeah, I think the project was all waterway. I mean, because how hard is it to develop, you know, dirt and soil, right? It was all of the balance of nature and the waterway and all those things. So
it has been done.
yeah, yep, it has.
Is it available to the public?
No.
We paid for it, but we can't see it.
Tropicana Park, we own it. The public owns it.
Public owns Tropicana
If
Park.
we do Scott's job, they own it, and they're gonna charge us to go on that beach, what you just said. And that is totally screwed up. For us to give us our property, the developer can put whatever he wants to.
You're absolutely right. There's no charge to go to Tropicana Park if you leave it a park.
If you leave the park, right?
There's no charge.
Why would we wanna give that up? It doesn't make sense.
It's a question we're asking, that's all. I mean,
Stuff you don't wanna pay for.
yeah. No, I mean, it's fair, you know, hey, I was talking to my wife, Michelle, I've been to Yellowstone, and thank God some people preserve some of that property, some of that land, right? So we can enjoy. I get it, I do get it. We're just dealing with how do we pay for things and what are some conceptual ways to do it? Yes, sir.
To Tropiano on his remarks, what's the guarantee that the developer of Staten Island will put that in? You said yourself a little while ago, you didn't know it was there.
Didn't know what was there.
The lagoon, the beach.
Oh, so
Nobody knew it was there.
the renderings, yeah, well, the site plan has been sent and done, so that's the site plan.
It's not done until it's built. You know that as well as we do.
I totally agree with you, my friend.
Forego 7 or.
What's the show me state? What is it? Missouri? Yeah. I got a buddy from Missouri. Oh my God. I'm gonna shovel your driveway. Show me. I mean, you gotta shovel it, right? So I get it. I totally get it. Yes.
So, 4 or 5 years back, there was this thing called the Go Bomb. So we got hoodwinked into getting that was gonna pay for all those parks. How do you figure you're gonna be able, and it was supposed to be strictly for parks and recreation, that money was going to. Yeah, yeah, you wanna pay $50, $55 a month to play pickleball? And $500 a year? So how can you figure you're gonna be able to use the money that was Tropicana Park to develop streets?
So the GOAT bond was 60 million, right? And the allocation for Tropicana Park was about, with their bump up in inflation, it was 2.9. We got an estimate of 3.7 2 years ago, published. And what is it today? Probably 4 million. So I asked that question. I specifically asked that question about the GOAT bond. Number one, I wanted to know, since these parks are being developed and a lot of money are being spent. Look what's happening at, thank God, I mean, look at Crystal Lake. That is, what was the amount?
Plus COVID hit for 3 years, so nothing good.
COVID didn't help, but you look at that park alone, I think was 12, I'm guessing right now, but yeah. But anyway, if you look at what the parks are costing today, have we already eclipsed that GOAT bond money? It was a question I had. I don't even know if they know the answer, but what I'm getting at is that if it stands to reason that the parks, that all that GO bond was funding is now with COVID, right, with Ian, right, Is it double now? Is it $120 million project?
Chair, I think the point is, can you put them on?
Can you reallocate, so they did a resolution, they voted on it, and that's going to develop the park. Can you reallocate that, is the question. That's a question I've asked.
All of your constituents voted that it be approved based on being used solely for parks and recreation.
Yeah, so the question is, that is an unanswered question, but I think I think that question though makes it look at what is now the representation, what is the total number right now to complete the mission? Is it feasible to do it? Is it feasible to spend 120 million now? I don't know. So it's a great question, we brought it up, I just don't have the answer for you. Yes, sir, in the back.
Yeah, I have a question on the duality of the parks. The state has a requirement of, so the population ratio parks, that's how all this kind of came about. How would that be effective? Taking a park out of the mix. I understand that's a lot of high density, and that might be part of the requirement for 7 months, I'm not sure. Just a question.
Man, sir, I caught part of that, so someone help me out. I didn't hear the whole question.
Basically, the state has a requirement.
Right?
That's why we had this go on thing, we needed more parks because of the population rate. So therefore, parks are set up. If you take a park out of the mix, I'm wondering how that would affect the state requirement. But I also understand that another park, because of the high population ratio on 7 Islands, I just don't know, has that been addressed on this idea of taking on a park?
I think the next step, to answer your question the best way I can, is if the survey comes back that we would like to look at reallocating funding, if the majority wants that, right, those questions have to now be asked. If the majority comes back and says, no, we want the park, we don't have to go there, but I have asked the go bond question. It's the elephant in the room. Can you do it? Is it legal? The other thing we also looked at that I didn't hear anyone say was that property was deeded to the city for a specific use. And I can tell you it was probably recreation or green space, right? So that's another thing. Can the developers, if it was to go that route, carve out enough green space, or would the bordering property satisfy that? So there's a little bit of that legal stuff to deal with, but we only have to go there if we have a majority that wants us to look at it. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yes, sir.
The daily use fee will be established by the 7 Islands. What's to restrict them from limiting parking? We can only have 25 vehicles in the busy season because the hotel is full. Or the swimming pool area or the kayak park will only accommodate so many people, and during busy season, there might be an excess amount of tourists. So therefore, we're going to raise the daily fee to whatever they feel is appropriate. I'm personally against giving them parking to a private entity. That's
I think what my original survey question that we went through is it's either develop it or don't develop it. Pocket the $4 million, do what you want with the property. And at the real estate meeting, it was, let's see what the developer will give us. Will they give us more parkland? Will they develop it? So that was why it switched that way. But I just want everyone to see, if you haven't seen these renderings, you can go on golfgateway.com. You can look at all these online. These are parking garages. Every one of these buildings, very, very creatively, have built-in parking garages. Because, the first thing I looked at when I first came to town, where's the parking garage? I asked her to do that. I get a little lost. All right, so, yes, sir.
First of all, Jerry, thank you so much. This is a great job, and I appreciate the innovative thinking and trainings and so forth. It's really good stuff.
Thank you.
I also appreciate the fact you brought back
Yeah, it's funny, John Bashaw, you remember John? He's the one who wrote me into this, right?
Yeah.
So, that was, he said, let's just go for that too, And it's like, the cost, Sam, you were involved with UEP Zone 2. It was like cost prohibitive, right? It was just cost prohibitive. It was an
10 grand, 10 grand each.
Oh, yeah, so, you get hit by 17,000 for the hookup, another 10 grand for that, right?
It was $6,000 more per year to have the line put on the ground.
But this day, I've asked some news analysts, so to speak analysts, that why don't they do an analysis of what we have paid LCEC, replace all the lines and telephone poles, 6 cents in, if they use that same money to put it underground,
Well, we'll wrap this up, but I just want to read something to you if I have it here. Hopefully I got it. There it is. So those of you who took that 2016, right? I just want to show you, this is amazing stuff. What you find here, you dig in. I don't know, sometimes I don't sleep much, but I look at all this stuff, and so I looked at the surveys, and I looked at, this was the NWNA summary, right? Waterfront dining was number 1, right? Kind of the same now, right? They wanted single-family homes in this project, 72 fish houses. That was number 2. Park use was number 3, but it was low on the scale. Isn't it interesting? You go to city leadership, right? What do these guys want? So they want the celebration of natural amenities and conservation lands, number 1. Also, even with the parks and open space, number 1. So this was the thinking back then, conservation. I get it, okay, but we still don't have streetlights, sidewalks, medians, or anything here, and this is coming up on a decade in 2026, right? Number 2 was bicycle access. Number 3 was to assess bridge removal or adjustments. Number 3 on that, on the Northwest Sector City Leadership, it was, God, my eyes are so bad. I can't even read that, sorry, but it would have to do with land use. But so then you went back to the community stakeholders. Number 1, the spreader canal access. Number 1, right? Increase plant life and tree canopy. Number 1, that's what we wanted back then. Number 1. Number 2, sidewalk access throughout the Northwest Cape. Number 2, Crystal Lake Park, completed. Check. It's being worked on, right? They want a sense of community back then, boat access, more bike paths, and access to Charlotte Harbor, another access. Those were the key things that we wanted. So anyway, we stand here, I think we're inching our way closer. It's very important that we find out what you want. And if you can tell us what you want, we'd appreciate it, but I think you'll get the benefits of it, because why are we here? You have a vision in your head what you want. Let's live it. And I'm going to end the meeting so we can start taking this down, but I'll be here for a while. Thanks so much for coming out. You got one more question. One more.
I have a first question regarding the community center. Do we know for sure that the community center is going to be Cape Coral community, or that word community center means the community that's living and doing business on island?
Public. Public.
Is it public?
Matter of fact, all public.
All public.
Yeah. All public. All access. So yeah, so I tell you what, I'm right here. You can get me after. I'm just, we're going to use this room. I got to get everything packed up and out of here so they can close at 8. But thank you for coming, everyone. Thank you very much.
I just have a quick question about